Alright, this is Weapon X Reacts, and we're back with another video, and this is gonna be a review of James Gunn's Superman, which I thought was a bit of a miss, and I will actually admit that there are some moments in this film that are actually really good, which I will get into later on, and let me remind you that there will be a lot of spoilers in this review. I'm gonna break down the plot of this film, so when Superman gets drawn into conflicts at home and abroad, his actions are questioned, giving Lex Luthor the opportunity to get the Man of Steel out of the way for good. And then he has to get saved by Lois Lane and Crypto. One of the biggest issues I had with the film is that the tone is all over the place, and it shows that James Gunn is not the right director for a Superman movie. And this goes the same way with Zack Snyder. And I will admit that James Gunn does a great job in making characters likable, especially when you look at the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. But here, it just doesn't work. Oh yeah, and I thought the jokes in this movie were absolutely terrible. And it reminds me of the typical humor that you see in Marvel movies nowadays. And it completely ruins the film for me. And I'm actually going to be honest right now that while this is a film with a lot of problems, at least it was entertaining, which is something we just don't get from Hollywood these days. To me personally, I just don't see David Corenswet as Superman, and while he does a great job with what he's been given, there are moments of where he just gets saved by the other characters and acts like a complete idiot. And if there's one thing that I actually liked about this film is that there is a scene of where he saves a girl from the monster he was fighting. And it is a great example of who Superman is supposed to be. A symbol of hope and a hero. And it is just one moment of where James Gunn actually understood the character. Also, the relationship between him and Lois Lane was really well done. And overall, David Corenswet gives an okay performance as Superman. Even if there are some moments that just don't work. And the fact that he was called an immigrant is just straight up bullshit. And it caused massive backlash before the film's release. And it just shows that the people who made this film don't know shit about comics or superheroes. And the only thing they care about is pushing woke nonsense down your throat. And I just want to say that this film is not woke. And that is a good thing. Also, I even heard that Henry Cavill actually congratulated David Corenswet when he was cast to play Superman. And it just shows that we need more people like him in Hollywood. And I will actually admit that David Corenswet did a great job as Clark Kent. Nicholas Hoult did an amazing job as Lex Luthor. And to me, this is a much better version than what we got with Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. But there are moments in this film of where he goes over the top at times, and if there was one thing I didn't like about his character is that he has a very generic motivation. And the reason why is because he feels like he isn't getting the attention from people, all because of the fact that They love Superman way more than him. But still, Nicholas Hoult makes this movie watchable for me. And I totally recommend you watch his other films like Nosferatu, which was directed by Robert Eggers, and to me, that was one of the best films of 2024. And it's a great example of how to do a remake that's actually really good. And I will admit that while his performance is great, it doesn't match up with the performance that Gene Hackman gave in the original film. Also, for me, the visuals felt plain. And it makes this film look more like a CW show than an actual movie. And if you look at the cinematographers of other movies like Suicide Squad, for example, they are visually stunning. Well, here, it's just a whole load of nothing. Also, the CGI on the monster looked fucking horrible and cartoonish. But I will say that the shots in the Fortress of Solitude were really well done. But it just doesn't save the film in my opinion. I thought Rachel Brosnahan was pretty good as Lois Lane. And to me, it felt like she actually understood the character. And it's one of the best things about this film, even if it's just a bloated mess with zero substance. And you know what? She perfectly captures the journalist side of Lois Lane. And I will admit that Nathan Fillion was actually okay as Guy Gardner. And he makes this film even more watchable than it already is. Also, Crypto was an entertaining character. And I just want to say that he was one of the main characters that James Gunn used to promote the movie. Also, if there was one thing I didn't like about him is that at times it felt like they didn't even know what to do with him as a character. And one of the biggest issues I had with the film is that there are too many characters, which leads them to be massively underdeveloped. And you can see that with Mr. Terrific, Guy Gardner, and Hulk Girl. This is the rating that this film got on Rotten Tomatoes. So for the critics, it's 83%, and for the audience, it's 92%. Which is really positive for a film like this. And I'm gonna be reading out the reviews right now. So for the first one, the character work is the strongest part of the film. The film is visually bright, colorful. Superman looks great, and David Corenswet's performance puts him in the lineup with the great Superman portrayals. For the second one, written and directed by James Gunn, Superman is a solidly entertaining beginning to the franchise, though it doesn't completely soar, which I most definitely agree with. And as I read these reviews, it just shows you that this is a film that had massive potential, and it puts Disney to shame, as it shows that DC is the only superhero franchise that actually has a chance to be good. Well, the MCU is just a dead corpse that doesn't even know what it wants to be anymore. Also, one thing that I loved about this movie was the action scenes. And that is just one thing I like about James Gunn as a director. He is really good with action scenes. Just look at the long take action scene from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, because that scene was fucking epic. I'm going to explain the ending of this film. So, after defeating Ultraman and exposing Lex Luthor to the world, Superman decides to repair this Fortress of Solitude along with the robots. And after that, we see Millie Alcock as Supergirl, and we realize that Krypto was actually her dog, and she just came to pick him up. And then Superman finally gets a message from his parents, which reveals to us that his mission was to rule Earth. And to me, this is very interesting, as it shows us that Superman's heroism was actually a choice that he made. And then we see a shot of Superman looking at the videos of his life on Earth with the Kents. And then we see a post-credit scene of where Krypto and Superman are seen sitting on the moon, highlighting the bond between them. And you know what? That shot of them just sitting on the moon and looking at Earth was so good. And then we see another one of where Superman and Mr. Terrific are observing Metropolis. And then the film ends. And to me, this ending was pretty well done, and this film was the perfect starting point for the future of the DCU. And I am actually gonna be honest, I would rather want to see that than wasting my time with Marvel's bullshit multiverse saga. And I thought the soundtrack by John Williams and John Murphy was pretty good, as it really makes this film feel like a Superman movie. And also, for a superhero movie, this was really fun to watch in the cinema, because it was just a simple story. It doesn't try to do anything different. It's just a good, solid superhero film that does what it's supposed to do, which is to entertain people. And you know what? That's not something I can say a lot of when it comes to movies that are made nowadays, because some of them are just woke leftist propaganda. I'm gonna show you the trailers of this film, starting with the first one. I actually will admit that this shot looked fucking epic. And I can definitely see what they were trying to do with like the shots and all that. Try and make it look like a superhero epic or something like that. I thought it was nice. I wish we could have had more scenes with David Cohen's Sweat as Clark Kent, because he did a great job in showing who he was. Say what you want about Man of Steel, but you should admit that it's just an underrated masterpiece. But seriously, Zack Snyder, he doesn't understand Superman, as he just made him look like a fucking messiah or some shit. And I can like see that he is so much better at handling dark and gritty characters like Batman. But he didn't understand them too. Oh yeah, and the other villains, I thought they were fucking boring as fuck. Let's go.
Are you being serious right now?
Yeah.
You'd let me interview you as Superman.
Sure.
Ready?
Let's do it, Cronkite.
Superman.
Miss Lane.
Recently, you've come under a lot of fire for what some might... It's a lot. Today, the Secretary of Defense said he was going to look into your actions. That's funny?
My actions stopped a war.
Maybe.
Not maybe. I did.
In effect, you illegally entered a country.
This is how you're gonna be?
I'm not the one being interviewed, Superman. Did you consult with the president?
No.
You seemingly acting as a representative of
I
the
wasn't
United States
representing anybody except for me.
Around the world.
And doing good.
I would question myself in the same situation and consider the consequences.
People were going to die. Hey, buddy. Eyes up here. Your choices. Your actions. That's what makes you who you are. Superman. He's not a man. He's an it. Somehow become the focal point of the entire world's conversation. I will not accept that.
I cleaned your boots. I'll go get them for you.
It's just an enjoyable mess, that's all I can say.
You have a dog?
Superman. powerful being on planet Earth. We finally meet. Now, as planned, I'll destroy you. And of course, that reporter you always do interviews with. Who raised you as a child? I'll kill them too. No matter what you do to me, Luther, your plans will work. Wrap it up. Good luck with that. Make a move, Big Blue. Mess around, doing important stuff. Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
Also, in conclusion, while this film was enjoyable, it's still a forgettable and mid movie. And it's not doing that good at the box office, making $416.2 million with a budget of $225 million. And the reason why it's not that good is because the film needed to earn around $700 million in order for it to be successful, which it wasn't. And I will actually admit that this is a better movie than Fantastic Four First Steps, as it actually tries to do something good for a franchise. And I just want to point out that I will not be watching Fantastic Four First Steps. And the reason why is very simple. I am done with the MCU! And I remember when the films they made actually fucking mattered. Now, it's more about quantity over quality. And it just shows you that Disney has destroyed this franchise. Just like what they did with Star Wars. And not just that, but they're gonna take away all your male characters and they are going to emasculate them. It's 'cause they hate you as a fan of these franchises. So they want to bury it to the ground. That's all they give a fuck about. And overall, for a superhero movie, it was really entertaining. But I just want to say that this is a film with a lot of flaws. And you know what's my biggest problem with superhero movies nowadays? Is that they feel less like movies and more like products. Because if you look at the films we had back then, like The Dark Knight and Iron Man, they felt like they were made by people who actually gave a fuck. And we need to accept the fact that we had it really good back then. And we will never see movies like these ever again, because nowadays it's just don't get excited. Don't ask questions. Just consume product. and then get excited for next product. And that is what Hollywood thinks about you. Just a consumer that will go to a cinema and be entertained for a couple of hours and then forget it later. That's just how it fucking is, because good filmmaking is dying and you can blame modern Hollywood for that. And it's actually nice seeing a character that is heroic again. Also, anyway, that's all I got for today. Go away now and always remember, strike back like a weapon against wokeness.